Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Megaman and Base. In the last part, we started off the game as well as took out Cold Man and Burner Man. And now it's time for our next Robot Master, a theme I'm surprised it took them technically 9 games to get to. Pirateman. Pirateman. Being savage and brutal, he could do anything to attain his goal. Good point, he's fearless. Bad point, he's a scoundrel. Likes money making and dislikes fair negotiation, so he's a general pirate, got it. And also, even though I'm not going to make note of it from here on out, one thing I want to notice is that you guys to notice is not only does this game reuse some graphics from 8 in the stages, but it also outright reuses themes from 8. Because Cold Man is, I think it's Frostman. This is clearly Aquaman's stage, and Burner Man was Search Man. And keep an eye on those as we go through. You'll notice a lot more familiar stuff as we go through. Also, I hate this jump. It's very hard not to get by that spike thing. It's not an instant kill spike, but it does a large amount of damage. Like, a lot of things in the game, actually. Actually, speaking of damage, though, one thing that this game actually carries over from the X series, because not even Mega Man 8 had this, I believe, at this point, was that when you're low enough on HP, Mega Man and Base will actually start looking like they're damaged. You know, like holding their arm, breathing heavily. And that's always a detail I like in games. Oh god, run away, giant whale. I'm actually not sure how you're supposed to avoid that. I rarely ever go this path, though, to be fair. And this part of the stage is very similar to Tenguman's stage back in 8. At the bottom, there's these things that kind of generate bubbles. Actually, well, first off, there's the pose I was talking about earlier. Stop for a second there. Next time I stand still, you definitely will. There's a bubble generated at the bottom of the stage that when you stand in it, it surrounds either Mega Man or Base in a bubble, and you slowly float upwards while trying to avoid the spikes. However, you're not required to do it if you know that area well enough, since you can just jump around at his base. But it's time for Pirateman. Pirateman's a bit of an interesting battle. His main thing is firing off his remote wind weapon, which slowly detonates and follows you a little bit. But he also likes to surround himself in a bubble, and then he'll start bouncing around it. It's whenever he's in the bubble that he's the most vulnerable to his weakness, the fire weapon, which becomes a whirlpool underwater. So they actually give an explanation as to why he's weak to it. It looks easier than it honestly is because he does a lot of damage, but you really do want to hit him when he's in the bubble. That way you can make him fall to the ground and then stun him a bit longer. Though I suppose, actually thinking about it, him being weak to the fire weapon would make sense because his weapon isn't water-themed. It's explosive. For beating him, as we're going to see momentarily, we get something known as the remote bomb. The remote bomb works a bit similarly to a pseudo mix of the gyro weapon from Mega Man 5 and the grenade bomb from Mega Man 8. It's a lingering explosion effect that you can control ever so slightly by directing it up or down. It's actually surprisingly useful. The amount of hits it can get in are quite ridiculous, so that's pretty cool. And now there's this stage. What this basically is a way to block you off from getting to the final area. See that little thing down there? That's a little key thing. We need to hit it with the weapon that matches the color of that item. Like that's Ice Wall. For destroying it, we get that giant bolt, which as I show off here, is a total of 100 bolts. This is only here to blockade you from going to the final area before you actually have all the stages beaten. It's also a way to help you afford the more expensive upgrades, because at this point, when you connect your first path to the end stage here, another row of upgrades gets unlocked in Otto's shop. That's the way it works. The more paths you connect to this, the more rows you get. You have one at the start, but as soon as you connect the second path to this end stage, all 3 rows will be available. And some of those later upgrades do get pretty expensive. I think the most expensive ones get upwards of 300 bolts, which is kind of ridiculous, but I can see why they did that. Not a fan of this song, though. A bit too eerie. But first, let's actually go to the stop and buy some things. I'm here for 2 particular things on the bottom row. The one on the bottom right and the orange thing. In terms of what's new there, we got the enemy analyzer there on the bottom left, which I think just tells you what the weaknesses of the bosses are. The super recover next to that, which boosts the amount of HP that a pellet gives you. The counter attacker, which boosts your power when you're in low HP zones. And the next 3 are base exclusive. The HSC, or high speed dash, which increases your charge amount. The ladder, which makes you climb ladders faster, and the treble boost. The treble boost, you'll see I believe later this part, but let me just say that you want to get that. It's very helpful. Megaman has a few more exclusive items I'll go over in a moment, but for right now, it's time for our next Robot Master, Groundman. Groundman, a drill, a drill, yes, he is kind of a drill. A robot created to excavate ruins. His weapon, spread drill, can drill hard objects. Good point, deep thinking. Bad point, inhospitable. Likes something rare and dislikes coarse thing. Wow, that is horribly written. And the stage is kind of annoying because it's one of the longer stages in the game, actually. And there's just a lot in the way here that really tends to just try to kill you. And if you're playing as Megaman, oh, you're gonna hate this stage in the next one. There's also a fair amount of CDs hidden in this stage. I do believe that's the most that's hidden in a stage is 13, and there's a couple of those. If I recall, though, the average amount of CDs in a stage is like 12.5. And then there's this guy. This worm will progress in the exact same path no matter what, and there's multiple of them. If you kill that one, one respawns in his place. The way you're supposed to go about killing this thing, I guess, really, in terms of just how easy it takes him out, is Wave Burner. But you do need to notice that there is more ways that they can hurt you than you can hurt them, at least the amount of killing them. And then you get rooms like this that they're just dickishly placed in. What's likely to happen on your first playthrough if you're playing as Mega Man in this stage, at least in my experience, because this is what happened to me, and a few others that I know actually, is that you'll be walking through this. You might kill the first one with Wave Burner or a Charge Shot, and then when you're about to exit the room by falling down, a second one spawns in and damages you unless you had the foresight to stop and kill the second one. Which on your first playthrough, you might not even know there's going to be a second one. You might think it's a one and done kind of thing. And once you know one of these things is a mini-boss. This thing, it looks like it moves randomly, but I do believe it does have a semi-set pattern as to the areas it can go in. But it has a bit too much HP for its own good. Wave Burner's a good choice, as is just firing at its head in general with some of the weapons. Much easier as Mega Man, though, because Mega Man does have the damage advantage over base when it comes to boss fights, just due to his Charge Shot. But it's not the overall worst mini-boss. In terms of the unique items, though, that Mega Man gets, because if I ever play as Mega Man in this game, it's going to be years down the line. His first exclusive item is the Auto Charger, which basically just charges your Buster on its own. You don't have to hold down the button. He also gets a high-speed charge, similar to Base's high-speed dash, which does as you'd think, boosts the charge speed. There's Eddie, which I think is the equivalent of those item balls that Base has, where he, like, once per stage, whenever you have him, he'll come in and drop an item for you. The Auto Recover, which makes your life energy recover slowly over time. Beat, who would deliver a barrier for you, which I think is basically like the spike protection, but a bit more permanent. Rush Search, which Rush does exactly what he did in Mega Man 7 and 8, actually. He'll, wherever you are, dig in for an item to see if there's something there. That's actually how you get a decent amount of CDs. And the CD Finder, which allows you to know where CDs are buried. That works in tandem with the comp system you have. And time for the second gimmick of this stage. The way that these rooms work is that there's a spike somewhere in the room, like there's one coming out from the bottom now. You need to destroy the red one to open the door to the next area. However, you need to be careful because whenever you destroy one of these totems, the spike moves in whatever direction it does. So basically, you need to constantly time your movements and think about where you're going so you don't accidentally kill yourself. It only really is dangerous in the second room, but it is worth noting that you need to do it the way you have to. Notable also in the first room, there's a secondary path you can access his base that I didn't go through, where if you kill this one on the very bottom right of the room, it'll open up a ladder that you can go through. Also, screw this section as Mega Man because these things move pretty radically, and it's very hard to tell where you're supposed to go as Mega Man without your double jump being able to save you. And like I looked right there, I would have been dead as Mega Man. I hate that room. But it's time for Groundman himself, weak to the remote bomb. And Groundman is very pattern-based, more so than some of the other boss fights. He likes to start off by jumping off the ceiling, in my experience, and then whenever you're underneath him, he'll become a drill. He likes to spam this 1 or 2 times in a row, in my experience, at which point he'll go into his second attack for me, which is that he'll go underground, come back up towards the right, and then shoot out his spread drill. He can make that split up into halves about 3 different times, then he usually goes back to the ceiling after that. He also has an attack where he'll, on the right, start, jump into his drill form, and drive left and right like a boss from Mega Man X3. However, he doesn't do that in this fight. He'll only do that in the inevitable boss rush later on. Really, though, he's one of the easier Robot Masters with his weakness. Without it, he's not too bad, but his damage output can be a bit surprising. And for beating him, we get that spread drill he just used on us. The way it works is that you'll fire it out the first time around, and it'll go far for a bit, but then it'll slowly lose energy and start to fall down. However, during any time when it's moving, you can press the attack button again to split it into 2 smaller drills, which will act the same way, go forward a bit, then start to drop. And then one more time, you can press the attack button once more to split those 2 drills up into 2 other very small drills to do the exact same thing, as they show there. It's actually surprisingly potent against normal enemies, but I don't like to use it just because ammunition is something I like to have on standby. And now I'm actually going back into the base, or shop rather, because I want to buy the high-speed dash, because that's just a good item to have. Something about the items in this game, though, is that there's something you need to keep in mind that's very distinct about them. Some are passive, some are not. I'll go over that more in a moment. But with that, it's time for our first refight against Tenguman. That's right, Tenguman's back. Both he and Astroman, for some reason, returned from Mega Man 8. Either way, Tenguman used to be an experiment robot for generating typhoons. He's designed after a Japanese goblin. Good point, independent spirit. Bad point, he's a snob. Likes fly fishing and dislikes fellowship. And he's my least favorite stage in the game because he's an auto-scroller. But he's an auto-scroller, and what makes it even worse is that in the Game Boy Advance version, the screen crunch is atrocious. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, you'll see in a moment. First off, I recommend getting out the Treble Boost right here, because Treble Boost is very useful. What it essentially is that when you use it, base summons Treble, they combine into that fusion from the fight in Mega Man 7, and you can fly around for a bit. And you also have a bit of a spread. Buster goes in 3 different directions. It's just overall a really good maneuverability upgrade, and it's really good for this section right here because this section sucks. Why? The balloons are really hard to time. You're likely to pop and fall off and die no matter who you're playing as, though Base has a bit more of a saving grace thanks to his double jump, and in the Game Boy Advance version in particular, the screen crunch is so terrible you can barely see, I think, 1 to 2 balloons ahead of you. I hate that section so much. Thankfully, Super Nintendo version is a bit easier, but I'm not a fan of this stage on the whole, mostly because of that section. Though, the rest of the stage isn't that bad, I'll admit to that. Either way, going back to the upgrades, like I said, there are some that are passive, some that are not. The way you can tell the difference is that if you can press start to go to the power menu, then press the R button, you'll, well, move a screen to the right, where you can see 2 rows of items, on the top and on the bottom. The top row is passive items, like the high-speed charge or high-speed dash, depending on who you're playing as. That's a passive upgrade. You'll always have that item no matter what. Non-passive ones, though, are ones you have to actively equip, and you can only have one on at a time. Like right now, I have the counterattacker on that boosts my power when I'm low on HP. That's there for mostly a situational or playstyle choice kind of purpose. Like, say you're someone who likes to have health on standby constantly, you're likely to always have the one that boosts HP recovery items on. If you're someone that likes to attack more, you'll likely have some of the attack-focused ones on. Or if you're more of a defensive player, you'll have one of the ones that lowers defense on. Boosts defense on. I like the idea. I do think that some of the active equipments should have been passive, though. Just due to the fact that if you're buying them, you're likely going to be buying them to have them on anyway, so switching between them can get kind of annoying. Anyway, for this part of the stage, the main gimmick is that there's these pipes all over the place, as well as little holes spawning the telebombs. The pipes, as you'll notice, some of them have cracks. What the cracks do is that they cause wind currents, like the ones that are currently on screen, to appear. Wind currents will either push you or pull you. It depends on the one, really. Really, this, I want to say it's technically second half, but it's more like the latter 2/3 of Tenguman stage are kind of easy compared to the first half, and I don't like that inconsistency. I would rather have had it all be like this, or all be like the outside portion in the first half of the stage. Maybe they did it just to differentiate it from his stage in Mega Man 8, but it's just kind of there, really. Not a fan of the stage. It's my least favorite stage in the game because it feels the most unoriginal while also being the most pain in the ass. And the song isn't even that interesting, even though the game's soundtrack is overall pretty good. Either way, if you could tell the weakness order, time for Tenguman, weak to spread drill. And Tenguman's pattern is largely the same as it was in Mega Man 8, though I feel like he tries to hover around the arena a bit more. Flies up on the top of the screen where you can just hit him with your spread drill after splitting it once or twice. Though you do need to learn to judge your splits with the spread drill, because he might move up at a time where you want him to go down. In terms of attacks, Tenguman likes to still use Tornado Hold in the same way he did. He'll try to push you off the stage, really. He can still do that dive bomb attack, I believe. But honestly, you stun lock him so often with the spread drill that he barely ever gets a chance to do anything if you know how to use it right. Like Mega Man 8 and 7 even, the bosses do suffer from a massive case of stun lock, which I don't mind. It helps me in the long run, but it kind of makes the bosses feel a bit too easy. Either way, for beating Tenguman, we do not get Tornado Hold this time around as either character. We get Tengu Blade, which works as a bit of an odd attack. There are two ways to attack with it. The original attack, which is basically like a little swipe in front of you that generates a little wind blade that'll go forward and bounce off walls. And it can also work, I think, as base only, a bit of a dash attack. Basically, when you dash, it generates a little blade in front of you. You can dash through enemies. I think as Mega Man, he might have a slide equivalent to it, similarly to the charge kick from Mega Man 5. But I rarely ever play as Mega Man, so I don't quite remember. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're heading after the next few Robot Masters. See you guys then.